I want you to picture a scenario for a second. Imagine an alien civilization lands on Earth.
Okay.
They are terrifyingly efficient. They operate as a single hive mind, and their bioengineering is just, millions of years ahead of us.
Right, the classic sci-fi nightmare setup.
Exactly. But here's the kicker. They view humanity as just fleeting background noise, a temporary environmental anomaly. But the twist isn't that they're coming.
It's that they've been here for 100 million years.
And they are, right now, probably living in your backyard.
Oh, yeah.
We are talking, of course, about the empire of the bees, specifically Apis mellifera, the honeybee. But today we're not doing the cute save the bees thing.
No.
We are doing a deep dive into the sources on their biology, their social structure, and honestly, it reads more like a report on a xenomorph invasion than a nature documentary.
I think that's the right way to frame it. We tend to, underestimate them because they're fuzzy and small.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the raw data, the scale, the engineering, the sheer ruthlessness, it really is an alien empire right under our noses.
Well, let's start with that scale, because the numbers in these sources were hard for me to even wrap my head around. It's not just a lot of bees, it's an overwhelming amount of life.
It really is. If we look at the estimated global population of bee citizens, we're looking at around 20 quadrillion.
20 quadrillion.
To put that in perspective, they outnumber humans 3 million to 1. For every single person listening to this, there are 3 million bees out there.
That is a lot of stinging potential. But the stat that really threw me was the weight difference, because, obviously a person is heavier than a bug.
Individually, yes,
No.
of course. But collectively, if you put all of humanity on one side of a giant scale and all the bees on the other, we lose.
We lose.
The global bee biomass is more than 5 times that of the global human biomass.
5 times. So purely from a biological standpoint, this is their planet. We're just subletting the Tondo.
And they've held the lease for a lot longer.
Yeah.
The sources highlight that this empire originated way back in the Cretaceous period. They were building complex societies while T-Rex was still walking around.
They survived the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs.
They did. They're incredible survivors.
And it's not just the honeybee, right? I was looking at the diversity breakdown. We always picture that little yellow and black guy, but there are over 20,000 distinct species.
More than all birds and mammals combined.
That's amazing.
Exactly. And the variance is wild. You have the scout class, like the Perdita minima, which is just 2 millimeters long. You can barely see it.
And then you have the ones that look like they belong in a horror movie, the Wallace's giant bee.
The monster. It's 60 millimeters long.
60? That's like the size of a human thumb.
Bigger. With jaws like a stag beetle and a wingspan of 6 centimeters. And it lives in termite mounds that it seals shut with resin. It's a formidable creature.
Okay, I'm very glad those aren't the ones in my garden. But for today, we were focusing on Apis mellifera, the honeybee, because the way their society functions is honestly baffling.
A superorganism.
It's like the most ruthless, high-tech corporation you can imagine, but everyone is also a sister.
And to understand the society, you first have to understand the unit, the individual worker, the xenomorph unit, if we're sticking to the metaphor.
Yeah, let's unpack the biology here, because bioengineering perfection isn't really hyperbole. I was reading about their sensory suite, and it's like they have superpowers. Start with the eyes.
It's incredibly sophisticated.
Yeah.
They have the 2 large compound eyes we all see. Those are for mosaic vision, seeing movement.
Right.
But they also have 3 smaller eyes on top of their heads called ocelli.
Wait, hold on. 5 eyes.
5 eyes.
I have looked at bees my whole life, and I have never noticed they have 3 extra eyes on top of their head.
They're small,
Oh.
and they don't see images like we do. The ocelli are strictly navigation sensors. They detect stability, the horizon line, polarized light, and UV radiation.
So it's like a built-in heads-up display for flight telemetry.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. Keeps them stable in the air.
That explains the precision flying. But the one that really sounded like alien tech to me was the taste. Where are their taste buds located?
On their landing gear.
Their feet.
Yes. Their gustatory receptors are integrated right into their legs. So imagine if you walked into a pizzeria, stepped on a slice of pepperoni, and instantly knew the flavor profile.
That would save a lot of time at a buffet.
It's pure efficiency. They land on a flower, and before they even deploy their proboscis to drink, they know if it's worth their time.
And what about the chassis itself, the armor?
It's a chitin exoskeleton, which is pretty standard for insects. But interestingly, the sources note it's a fungal-based polymer.
Fungal-based?
Yeah, it acts as armor plating. And internally, no lungs.
This was the part that made me think of them as robots. No lungs at all.
No pulmonary organs. Instead, they have these intake ports along their body called spiracles. It's a direct oxygen diffusion system.
So they don't breathe in and out.
No, the air just flows directly into their muscles.
It really does sound like a machine, a biological drone.
And that's exactly how the hive treats them. Which brings us to the social structure. If you think human corporate ladders are tough, you haven't seen the inside of a hive. It is brutal.
Yeah, the sources mentioned there is a zero social mobility. You are born into your role, and you die in your role.
Precisely. And there are only 3 roles that start at the very top. The queen.
The engine.
Population 1. She is the genetic bottleneck, the only fertile female in the entire colony.
Yeah.
And her life is intense. We think of queens as rulers on a throne, but she's more like a biological factory that's been bricked into a wall.
The numbers here are insane. She lays 2,000 eggs a day.
Every single day. That output exceeds her own body weight every 24 hours.
Imagine giving birth to your own body weight in children every single day. I can't even process the energy that takes.
And she just keeps going until she can't. And this is where the ruthlessness comes in, the termination protocol.
This is the part that proves she's not really the boss.
Not all. If her efficiency drops, if she lays, say, 1,500 eggs instead of 2,000, the hive mind initiates superorganism.
Which is a very polite word for assassination.
Regicide. The workers, her own daughters, will kill her in mirror replacement. She serves the hive. The hive does not serve her.
That is cold. Okay, so that's the queen. Let's talk about the guys. The drones. The sources call this role the gamble.
It's a tragic existence, honestly.
Right.
There are about 500 of them in a hive. They're male. They have no tools, no stinger, no pollen baskets.
So they can't work, they can't defend the hive, and they can't collect food. So what do they do all day?
They eat. Their work output is 0%, but they consume 300% more food than a worker bee.
So they're basically just oversized freeloaders. The
Yeah.
guy sleeping on your couch eating all your chips.
Exactly, but their sole purpose is reproduction. They exist to find a queen from another hive and mate. That is it.
But even if they succeed, it doesn't end well, does it?
No, it's fatal. The mating process causes what's called hydroshock. It involves an explosive aversion of the endophilus.
Wait, what?
The reproductive organ turns inside out with such force that it ruptures his abdomen.
So his reward for finally doing his one job is that he explodes.
Instant fatality. He falls out of the sky, dead.
Oh. Okay, but let's say he fails. Let's say he never finds a queen. He just hangs out eating honey all summer. What happens then?
That's arguably worse. That's the purge.
The autumn protocol.
Right. When the weather turns cold, the hive switches to resource conservation. The workers look at the drones and just see non-essential biomass.
So they kick them out.
They physically drag the males to the entrance and throw them out. They lock the doors and guard them. The drones are left outside to starve or freeze.
So you either explode in midair or freeze to death on the front porch. Being a male bee is a terrible deal.
It really is. The real power, the real driving force of the empire, is the worker.
The labor.
50,000 strong. Sterile females who perform 100% of the colony's labor. But what's fascinating is that they don't just have one job. They have a career path determined entirely by their biological age.
I loved this timeline. It's so structured. It's not like they pick a major. They graduate through every single department.
Exactly. Days 1 through 3, you are a janitor. You clean brood cells. It's a high hygiene protocol.
Start at the bottom, scrubbing the floors.
Then, days 4 to 11, you become a nurse. Your body literally changes to synthesize royal jelly to feed the larvae.
You become the cafeteria.
Then, days 12 to 17, you are a builder. Your wax glands activate. You become a structural engineer. Then, you're a guard on perimeter security. And finally, the last stage of life.
Forager, resource acquisition until system failure.
Which means death. They literally work until their wings fall off. They fly until they physically cannot fly anymore, usually dying in the field so the hive doesn't have to deal with the body.
It's incredibly efficient, but man, it's bleak. Let's circle back to that builder phase, because the honeycomb is famous. But the sources say we've been misunderstanding how they build it.
The hexagon. We see it everywhere. It's the perfect shape for maximum volume with minimum material. But here's the cool part. These don't actually build hexagons.
What? I've seen the pictures. They are definitely hexagons.
The end result is a hexagon. But the bees build rough, circular cylinders out of wax. They pack them together like a stack of pipes.
So they build circles.
Circles. Then the workers use their body heat to warm the wax. Now imagine a bunch of soap bubbles pressed together. What happens to the walls between them?
They flatten out.
Exactly. The combination of the hive warmth and surface tension pulls the wax into that equilibrium state. The circles physically settle into perfect hexagons.
So they aren't drawing geometry, they're using physics to do the finishing work for them. That's brilliant.
It's brilliant engineering. And the facility management is just as strict. You mentioned propolis.
Yeah, the stuff they use for sterilization, what is that?
Think of it as bee caulk. They collect tree resin sticky sap and mix it with their own enzymes. It's highly antimicrobial. They varnish the entire hive with it, creating a sterile operating room.
And hygiene is priority one because all of this is built to store one thing: honey. And I don't think people realize the energy economics of that jar in their pantry.
The cost is astronomical. To produce just 1 kilogram, 1 jar of honey, the colony estimate between 4 and 8 million flower visits.
8 million visits for one jar.
And in terms of distance, that's approximately 100,000 kilometers of flight.
100,000 kilometers, what is that?
That is roughly 2.5 times around the circumference of the Earth.
For one single jar of honey.
Yes.
I'm never going to waste a drop of honey again. That is actually mind-blowing.
And it's not just collect and spit, it's chemical engineering. Nectar starts at 50% water. If they stored that, it would ferment.
It would spoil.
So they use enzymes to break down the sugars, and then they have to dehydrate it.
How do you dehydrate a liquid inside a humid hive?
Mechanical fanning. Thousands of bees stand in rows and flap their wings to create a specific airflow, evaporating the water down to exactly 21%.
And at that point, it's shelf-stable forever.
They cap it with wax, and it will be edible 3,000 years from now.
Industrial-grade food processing. But for 50,000 bees to coordinate this, finding flowers across miles of terrain, they need a way to talk. They don't have radios.
Welcome to the Internet of Bees, the Waggle Dance.
I've always heard about this, but I never really got the math of it. How does wiggling your butt tell your sister where the good flowers are?
It's a vector-based data transmission protocol. It's incredibly precise. So a scout finds a great patch of clover. She comes back to the hive, which is dark, remember?
Right, dancing in the dark on a wall.
First variable, direction. She waggles her body in a straight line. The angle of that run relative to up to gravity corresponds exactly to the angle the bees need to fly relative to the sun outside.
So if she runs 90 degrees to the right of up,
then the other bees know to fly 90 degrees to the right of the sun.
That is wild. Okay, so that's direction. What about distance?
Variable 2, duration. The length of time she spends waggling. 1 second of waggling equals about 1 kilometer of flight.
So if she waggles for 2.5 seconds, the target is 2.5 kilometers away.
Exact.
But how do they know if it's worth the trip?
Variable 3, frequency. The intensity of the vibration indicates the resource quality. A violent vibration is a 5-star buffet. A lazy waggle, it's mediocre. Plus, she carries the scent of the flower on her body as a sample.
So a bee walks in, dances for 2.5 seconds at a 45-degree angle, vibrating like crazy, and smells like lavender. And the other bees instantly download. Go 2.5 kilometers northeast, it's high-quality lavender.
And they execute it perfectly.
Yeah.
But this communication becomes even more critical when the colony itself reproduces.
Swarming. This is when they split the city in half.
Yes. The trigger is overcrowding. The old queen leaves, and she takes 66% of the workforce with her.
And they end up in that big, scary ball on a tree branch, right?
Of bivouac. They are effectively homeless refugees. This is a code red situation. They are vulnerable, they have no food stores, and 50,000 mouths to feed.
So how do they decide where to go? The queen isn't in charge, she's just following.
This is the consensus algorithm. It's one of the purest forms of democracy in nature. Scouts fly out checking real estate. A tree hollow, an attic, a log. They come back and dance their findings.
They debate with dancing.
Literally. One scout dances for the tree hollow, another dances for the attic. The better the sight, the more intense the dance.
And the other bees watch.
They watch. If a dance is convincing, they fly out to verify the site. If they agree it's good, they come back and dance for it too. It's like a viral trend. Support builds for the best location.
So you have competing dance parties for different houses.
Exactly. And once a certain threshold of support is crossed, a quorum, the entire swarm makes a unanimous decision instantly. They lift off, perfectly synchronized, and fly to their new home.
Leaderless coordination that manages 50,000 individuals without a single committee meeting. Humans could learn a lot from that.
We're really good.
But let's go back to the hive for a second. Because all this honey, all this larvae, it's a gold mine for predators.
Which is why we have fortress defense.
The border control here sounds stricter than any airport I've ever been to.
It starts with identification. Every bee has a scent-based passport, pheromones that identify them as a citizen of that specific hive.
And the guards are checking everyone.
Every single entrant. And they do a payload check.
Yeah.
This is where it gets brutal. In times of scarcity, if a worker bee returns empty-handed, no nectar, no pollen entry is denied.
You can't come home if you didn't do your job.
Or they are terminated. If you aren't bringing in calories, you aren't eating them.
Savage. But what if an intruder tries to force their way in, a wasp or a bear?
Then they switch to targeting. Guard bees release an alarm pheromone called isomal acetate. Interestingly, to humans, it smells strongly of bananas.
Bananas?
Yes. If you are ever near a beehive and suddenly smell intense artificial banana flavoring, run. It marks the intruder for a mass swarm attack.
And that attack brings us to the ultimate weapon, the kamikaze, the stinger.
The barbed lance mechanism. We all know bees die when they sting, but the engineering is horrifying. The stinger is barbed like a fishhook. It's designed to anchor deep into soft tissue, like our skin.
So it sticks.
It sticks. And when the bee tries to pull away, her abdomen tears. She leaves behind the stinger, the venom sac, and the pumping muscles.
So she flies away and dies of massive trauma.
But the weapon stays. The muscles keep pumping venom into you for minutes after the bee is gone. It's a weapon designed for guaranteed self-destruction to maximize damage.
It's amazing. We see them buzzing around flowers and just think, oh, pretty nature. But we're actually looking at the scouts of a hyper-advanced 100-million-year-old military-industrial complex.
And we're shockingly dependent on them.
Yeah, the dependency stat is scary. 1 in every 3 bites of human food requires pollination.
If you enjoy almonds, apples, berries, coffee, you are dependent on this empire. The projection is stark. Without bees, human food systems would collapse in less than 4 years.
We need them way more than they need us.
Absolutely. They were here 100 million years before us. They survived the asteroid. They've seen species like us come and go.
And that brings us to the final thought that I've been mulling over, that alien comparison.
Right.
We started this by saying, imagine an alien civilization landed. But really, if you look at the timeline, we're the ones who just landed.
We are the new arrivals.
We build our cities, we fight our wars, we act like we own the place. But in the background, this ancient, perfect machine just keeps humming along, ignoring us. To them, we're just a temporary disruption, a fleeting environmental anomaly.
It's a humbling perspective. We might pave the world, but the bees will probably be here long after the pavement cracks.
They survived the dinosaurs, they'll probably survive us. So next time you see a honeycomb, don't just look at it as a pantry. Look at it for what it is. A bioengineered city built by a superorganism that views us as temporary scenery.
And maybe give them a little space.
Definitely give them space. And watch out for that banana smell. That wraps up our deep dive into the empire next door.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for listening. Stay curious, and we'll catch you in the next deep dive.